Hey, Rick, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Where are you sitting in the like the eating area of the hotel?
No, that's the eating area of Minneapolis St. Paul Airport.
Oh my gosh. What time did you fly
Yeah,
up this morning?
7 a.m.
Wow. What
Well,
time did you set up?
Indiana's. Well, we leave here in about, I don't know, 45 minutes, I think, 30 minutes to go to Portland. And I was just talking about the Indiana plane was delayed last night. I think that they just got in to Portland not too long ago. So I really wonder what that's going to do. I mean, I know how tired I am. I didn't play that game against Wyoming last night. That was a physical battle. So it has to play an effect. And you're going 3 time zones away on top of that. That's a lot to ask of some guys.
Yeah, it is. And it's not necessary. You could have put them in Pittsburgh or Indy or Milwaukee or Buffalo or Greenville.
Why does the NCAA insist on doing things like this? It's befuddling, really.
They never explain why. They have their reasons, but they never explain them. And the same thing's going to happen tonight to either Rutgers or Notre Dame because they got to fly all night to go to San Diego.
Crazy. The NCAA tournament is underway, sort of, with the first four in starting tomorrow. The 64-team field will be completed and underway. Indiana gets a win, Rick, against what turned out to be a game Wyoming squad. Some matchup issues, but it was Indiana couldn't hit Lake Monroe if they were in a boat for a while, man. The shooting was bad, but they were able to defensively control the game enough and stop Maldonado or keep him in check to get that win.
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious in the very early on that one person was going to have to step up and help Trayce Jackson-Davis in the starters. I think other than Trayce, they were 4 for 20 in the first half. They only made 1 3. That was Xavier Johnson. Weren't getting anything done, and the longer the first half went on, it seemed like the more and more when the defensive possessions began, Wyoming had 5 guys with at least 1 foot in the lane. They were just daring Indiana to make shots, and it's like that's a scenario we've seen so much over the last 2 or 3 years. Like Big Ten teams, like if you can make shots, you'll beat us. If you don't, you won't. And that changed somewhat in the second half because of Jordan Geronimo. A real game, not only offensively, in a variety of ways offensively. He had those tip dunks, which that's sort of his signature. He hit a couple jump shots. He made a 3. He drove the ball once. It kind of faked and pivoted in the lane and scored. I mean, he showed some variety to his game. And he had a couple of really good defensive plays where he pulled the ball out of Maldonado's hand. He was going up for a shot. So considering going into the game, people weren't even sure he's going to play. It's a huge night by Jordan Geronimo.
Yeah. Where I was sitting, there was an inbounds play right in front of me, and he was the defender. And he just jumped up one time to block, and I just turned, and Dustin the Pyrrhic turned and looked at me. We just looked at each other, and I said, I could have walked underneath of him. He got up so high, it blew my mind. I'm like, oh, my gosh. And that's what we both said to each other. His hops are crazy. And, man, he's learning to use that to his advantage.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Trayce Jackson said after the game. Even they call him the freak because he's a freak of nature. And he does have incredible God-given athletic ability, and he uses it well. And what he did against Wyoming was he showed tremendous timing on a couple of those tips when the ball – one time I think he fouled Galloway, who missed the layup, and he was there. He showing hustle to trail the play. And another time he just went up in a crowd, and he's got the ability to elevate a little bit more than the other people in the crowd and get his hands on the ball and put it in. So huge. I mean, that was just huge game for him, and maybe it's something he can build on and continue to play like that, not only this year but the next couple of years.
Yeah, his personality is very calm and a great demeanor, and his game is that. He is calm on the court, which I prefer to see than someone who's really kind of scattered. He's very calm, and I think as he continues to grow, he's going to be a good one. I know people have said that, but I mean, you can really see the skills that this guy has that are not even close to being brought out yet.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a big offseason for him if he can get in the gym and improve his ball handling and passing, and become a guy who can create his own shot some, because he's got the first step quickness. If he can become a good enough ball handler, he can blow by defenders, and obviously improve his shot. I mean, he's been better this year. He's better at the line for sure. He's made a few threes. I mean, he only made 2 threes last night, and he made one of them. So yeah, he's got a lot of tools in the shed. He's just got to bring a few more of them out.
Absolutely. And the game you saw last night, I know the shooting was poor. The defense was good. They won the game, which was most importantly, because when you get to the tournament, anything can happen. And so it was Vegas had it right. Like I said, they had a 4-point game. Indiana covered the spread. Now they have to go and take on a St. Mary's team who's a little more talented than Wyoming. Play out with the West Coast Conference with Gonzaga. But I'm not familiar enough with St. Mary's to really speak upon them. But I know that they've had a good program over the years and playing in that conference and playing Gonzaga and trying to elevate it. I don't know where they are right now.
Well, I mean, it's a typical team of Randy Bennett, who's had his program in place for quite a while. One is they have older guys. 2 is they have multiple guys who can shoot the three. I think they've got 3 really good 3-point shooters, and they're known for their physicality. The game will be played at a similar tempo that the game was played at last night. They like the games in the 50s or 60s, and they're a good defensive team. I mean, I looked at their season record. I mean, they don't have a lot of signature wins against. They beat Gonzaga, but other than that, I don't see anybody on there like, wow, they beat them, or wow, they beat this team. So I don't think it's one of his better teams, and I don't think they really have. When they were really good, they had Patty Mills and Dellavedova and some of those guys who became NBA guards. I'm not sure they have the NBA guys this year, but it's an older, tougher team. So Indiana's going to have to guard them, and they guarded last night pretty well. And when they eventually get beat, it's going to be that the shot making kills them. One of these games, you would think that Miller Kopp or Parker Stewart would go off. Keep waiting for it to happen. It hasn't happened in a while, but you would think inevitably one of them will go off.
Yeah, perimeter defense is something that they've kind of fought with this season. Having a team that's physical and shoots the three, that sounds like that could be problematic for Indiana, especially if they're not hitting shots. That's going to be a serious problem. But blocking out, I hate Trayce Thompson. He's probably given up more threes than anybody in America. So many times I see him running back at a shooter, and they just knock down a three. But they've got to find a better way of closing those 3-point shooters out, especially when you have a team like St. Mary's who has multiple weapons.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you can't be fouling 3-point shooters the way they did last night. There was 2 really bad ones in the second half that could have put Wyoming back in the game. Giving you a little bit more insight on St. Mary's, they're actually a better defensive team in terms of efficiency than Indiana. They're
Wow.
9th in the country. But here's a couple scores, and I know it's been 3 or 4 months ago, but they only beat Bellarmine by 9, and that was at St. Mary's. They beat Notre Dame by 3 in a neutral court. That's similar to the Indiana score. And that's their best non-conference win, Notre Dame. They played Wisconsin on a neutral court, which I believe wasn't that the Maui Invitational in Vegas? And they lost to Wisconsin by 6. Similar to the Indiana score. So I think it's a fairly even game. I think St. Mary's will be favored by 2 or 3 points, maybe. But it'll be a game that if Xavier Johnson scores a little bit better, or if one of those other guys can go off and get Indiana remember, they keep having these games that they're getting outscored, like in the Iowa game, 14 threes, Indiana had 5. They're getting beat at the 3-point line by that big a margin. They're going to out-margin that really. As I look at their team, they've got 1, 2. They got 3. They got one guy made 59 threes, shooting 39%. Another guy who's a 47% 3-point shooter. He makes about 1.5 a game. and another guy who's a 39% three-point shooter. So they're going to get threes from a lot of different positions. So that'll be the game plan of how can they stop them. I don't really think they have an inside guy at the level, especially the way they played the last 2.5 games. I mean, this is the best basketball of Trayce Jackson-Davis's career that we've seen. I think over the last 4, counting the Michigan game, and we know he didn't do much in the first half, I think he's averaging almost 25 points a game in the last 4 games.
Yeah, he's killing it. Ironically, Dale Davis is sitting about 30 feet from me over here in the food court.
Right.
He was on our flight, and I was telling him, I was like, man, Trayce is just killing it at them. He's had, similar to how Xavier really changed his game and went off and started averaging 18 points. It wasn't quite there yesterday, but Trayce Jackson-Davis has just been a constant. And it's like when people started questioning his All-American and all that stuff, he took it personally and got back into the game, basically.
Well, part of me wonders whether, and he kind of alluded to it in Indianapolis a little bit, but when he got hurt against Nebraska, I wonder whether there was a 2 or 3 week stretch when he played 100%, but didn't say much about it. He seems to be a little bit more mobile now, and the way we saw the way he attacked Kofi Coburn and Hunter Dickinson, that first step. He's not going to muscle those guys. But he is quick enough that he can get by them and drive by them and hit those reverse layups or get free for those lob dunks. And he's showing it right now. He's showing the athletic ability that is his calling.